It's times like this I wish I were a religious man.
It's all over, people. We don't have a prayer.
All right, so now we're going to move to very controversial subject. And this, I'm going to answer John Smith here. Thank you, John, for all your support. It really means the world to me. And he says, thank you for all your work. Looking forward on hearing your opinion on these subjects. If Satan and demons are not responsible for the evil of today, then I would suggest all evil originates with the corrupt tribes within humanity itself. I'd have to imagine a sobering, humbling thought. I'm still struggling with this premise because what I read of demons seems to fit with my own experiences so well, from Crowley to Faceless propagandist to Jerry. I didn't see the Jerry Manzinski videos that you're talking about. So yeah, we're going to talk about Lucifer, Gnostics, and the end of the world. And this is probably, people are going to come after me hard for this one. But I hope that we can have a discussion and I just want to present my view, and you guys can all decide for yourselves. So we're going to look at Gnosticism, which I think is really just wretched, and it's kind of infiltrated all of our stuff. We're going to look at Satan and Lucifer. We're going to look at the sons of Adam, who are they, and we're going to look at the end of the age, or the end of the world. And I think Gnosticism is where we're going to start. And I'm going to take I took a picture from my Jewish encyclopedia because I think my Jewish encyclopedia actually has the best that I've read description of what Gnosticism is. And it's not that Jews believe in this or anything like that. I mean, I think Jews are the father of Gnosticism. Modern day Gnosticism is really Jewish, but just because it's in the Jewish encyclopedia, it doesn't mean Jews believe it. So what is Gnosticism? And we're going to look at this, and it's a system of belief in antiquity which held that the words of the Bible contained a special hidden meaning, which was the real one, while the literal meaning represented a lower degree of understanding. Okay, so this is where you're going to get some Kabbalah stuff here, where there's a secret meaning to everything. It maintained that this higher meaning is known to the initiated only. Okay, this sounds like Masonry. And that knowledge of it raises him who possesses it above the masses who are content with the unusual meaning of the words. Those who based their teachings on such esoteric meanings of the scriptures were called Gnostics. They were found among the adherents of both Judaism and Christianity. It is Philo who first reveals the traces of such a belief in a hidden meaning of the Torah in the form of a conscious and deliberate system. But the origins of the tendency go further back, and it's true. The concepts of Gnosticism are going to go back even to the Greeks, but not to this degree. What the Gnostics are going to do here in the 1st century BC and the time of Jesus, they're going to take what the Greeks were just questioning. The Greeks were just questioning. Socrates was asking questions. Plato was asking questions. They were trying to figure out, are there gods? Is there one God? So the Greeks were already debating this stuff, which I think is what led to Socrates being killed. Now, the teachings of Gnosticism affected a fusion of Jewish or Christian ideas with a number of current pagan conceptions. Okay, so this is very important, the mixing, this merging of Jewish, Christian, and paganism. Later on, the movement split into a number of different groups. The motive at the basis of the Gnostic movement was the desire to explain away the difficulty produced by the fact that God, who is good, is said to be the creator and ruler of a world in which there is so much that is imperfect and evil. Okay. Now I'm gonna. This is something that isn't biblical. Anyone who says that God is only good, and God is good, but that God didn't create evil, that God cannot do evil, that God wouldn't do evil, that is a Gnostic concept, and we're gonna quote scripture to prove that God created evil, and that even though he is a good God, he created evil for a purpose. Because without evil, you're not going to know what good is. How could you understand light if you weren't first lost in darkness? How could you ever appreciate being happy if you didn't know what sadness was. So we're going to see how God, the God of the Bible, did create evil. He admits he created evil, and there's a reason why he created evil. So the Gnostics attempted to solve this difficulty by supposing that there were two persons in the divinity, the highest God and the demiurge. So we're going to have this concept of dual gods fighting, a good God and an evil God. And the Bible is a monotheistic religion. There isn't a second God. There's one God. And this is what we're going to really go through. So the Bible contains hidden meanings for the initiated only. This is Masonry and Gnosticism. Gnostics were both Jews and Christians. So you're going to see, the Gnostic belief has infiltrated both Judaism and Christianity and Islam. Islam is probably the most Gnostic, purest. If you want to know the purest Gnostic religion, I would hands down tell you it is Islam. There's no God that is more messed up than Allah. Allah is this really bumbling God that just, if you read the story of fallen angels, doesn't exist in the Torah. There is no mention of angels rebelling against God or falling or anything. This is attributed to something called the gap theory, and we can talk about this in another video, but where you find the fall of Lucifer is in the Quran. This is where Lucifer and God actually, and Lucifer's the good guy. If you pay attention to the fall of Lucifer in the Quran, Lucifer was punished because he refused to worship Adam. He said, no, I only bow down to God. I will only bow down to you. Lucifer in the Quran is actually the good guy. He's telling God, no, I don't want to bow down to a man. I want to only bow down to you, God. And he's punished and kicked out of heaven because he refused to bow down to Adam. So it's a joke. So we can cover that in another video. So Philo of Alexandria first revealed such beliefs. So this is a Jew. Philo of Alexandria is one of the main writers, especially for the Jews at this time in Alexandria, in Egypt. And this is really one of the centers of education for the time. There were more Jews living in Alexandria and Egypt than there were in Judea. This would be like Jews in New York or something, okay? Where do the Jews go? They go to where the money is. They go to where the academia is. And during the first century, they were in Egypt. They were dominating the literature of the time, and they were writing under Greek names. Okay, very similar to what they were doing in Germany during between the early 1900s. This is what caused Hitler to go crazy, was when Hitler realized that these German writers aren't writing, they're not Germans, they're Jews. And the Jews were doing the exact same thing in the time of Jesus from Alexandria. And so Philo of Alexandria is a very important guy. He's really the father of modern-day Gnosticism. Gnosticism is the fusion of Jewish, Christian, and pagan, so polytheistic ideas, and we're going to see that in a minute. Gnosticism teaches that the God of all good battles the God of all evil, and this is modern-day Christianity, right? We're going to see this isn't true. Okay, so we're going to continue. So the demiurge, or the creator of the world. Now this is where the Gnostics reveal who they are, and as Christians, when you understand what these Gnostics actually believe in, and the Freemasons, this should inspire us to take back power and burn down every single Masonic lodge, and ban these and make it illegal, just like Hitler did. Ban these Freemasons, because we're going to see what they believe in. So according to their doctrine, the highest God is enthroned above the world in infinite sublimity and has nothing at all to do with it. So the Gnostic God is so high, he doesn't care about the world. He didn't even create the world. We're going to see that. From him there emanates a number of radiations which are represented either as independent beings or else perceived as revelations of the essence of the highest God in such a manner that the danger of their being made independent was very great. Okay, and this is actually very Lord of the Rings, where I think it's Iluvatar. If you study the religion in Lord of the Rings, the backstory, the Silmarillion, the religion of Lord of the Rings. It's pure Gnostic, and it is exactly this. It's very similar to the story of Lucifer. I love Lord of the Rings, but it is a very Gnostic. If you want to understand Gnosticism, you can just study the history of Lord of the Rings. It's a perfect Gnostic book. So the creator of the world proceeded from the highest God. So the guy whoever created this world came from this higher God. It was he who created the world, who chose Israel and is their redeemer, and who promulgated the law, the Torah, okay? He created the world by giving form and shape to the primeval matter which had always existed. Accordingly, everything good is an emanation of the highest God. So here's your all-good God, the God of Masonry, the God of the Gnostics. He's so high that we can't even know him. He didn't even create the world. Some other God created the world, this smaller God. So it says, accordingly, everything good is an emanation of the highest God. Everything defective and evil owes its origin to the primitive matter. And the law, the Torah, okay, is not an emanation of the exalted God, as appears to those who understand the words of the Torah literally, but proceeds from a less exalted being, the creator of the world, and is therefore not expression of the highest perfection. So you gotta understand this. The Gnostics, their God is, they view the God of the Bible as Lucifer, is their enemy. And by fighting, if you want to know why do these people, how do they feel nothing when they rape children? How do they feel nothing when they blow up countries? They feel nothing because of their hatred for the God who created the world, who they, in their religion, is Lucifer, because there's actually a higher God above an unknowable God that doesn't even care about the world. So that is what we're looking at. So the God of the Gnostics is enthroned above the world and has nothing to do with it. The creator of the world proceeded from this higher God. It was the creator God who created the world, who chose Israel and their redeemer, and who gave us the law, the Torah. So they hate the God who gave us the Torah. Everything good came from the unknowable highest God. Everything defective and evil owes its origin to the primitive matter, and the law, the Torah, is not an emanation of the exalted God, as appears to those who understand the words of the Torah literally, but proceeds from the less exalted being, the creator of the world, and is therefore not the expression of the highest perfection. So Christians, these Gnostics, these Freemasons who swear on a Bible and say they're Christian, let me tell you something. You are their enemy. They hate you. They hate your God. I don't know how Freemasonry was ever allowed in our countries. So what am I, and what is monotheism? So monotheism is really the idea that there's just a single God, and that's it. And that Satan isn't what we think. Okay, that mankind is God's crown creation, and that mankind has dominion over the world. And Satan serves God. And we're going to see that we don't understand Satan. We don't understand what this word means. We don't understand who's a Satan, what is a Satan. And Satan is really just an enemy, an adversary. It could be, if you're fighting with someone, they become your Satan. Okay, that's really what it is. In the story of Adam and Eve, the serpent, in a sense, is playing the role of a Satan, not the Satan, a Satan. He's a tempter. He's coming in as an adversary to Adam, and we're going to see how also men can be Satan, and we're going to go through the scriptures now. So understand this, that this is Gnosticism or henotheism also, that there's the highest unknowable God, and then they consider Jehovah, Yahweh, if you want to call him that. They consider him the creator of the world, the God of the material world, the God of the Torah, the Redeemer of Israel. All evil comes from him. Okay, this is what the Gnostics believe in. Christianity today, what do they believe in? Well, they believe they just, it's, now we're going to see this just switches places. What the Gnostics have done is they've just switched the gods. So our God, so Lucifer now is, or Jehovah becomes Lucifer, and Jehovah becomes this higher God. So when you really overlay modern day Christianity with what the Gnostics believe in, it's the same thing. Okay, it's the same thing. You have the God above, and then you've got the God of the material world. And so we're gonna kind of now look at Satan here. And it's very important to define what we're talking about. Definitions are key. The reason why lawyers control the world is because they control the language, and priests did the same thing. I'll tell you guys a joke. And so when the Romans were conquering Dacia, the Romans said to the translator, "Tell the king to tell us where the gold is, or else we'll kill him." So the translator said to the king, "Hey, the Romans said that if you don't tell them where you hid the gold, they're going to kill you and your family." So the king says to the translator, "Okay, tell the Romans that I buried my gold under the river." So the translator looks at the Romans and says, "He says to kill him because he's not going to tell you." And the Romans kill him. And this is the power of a translator, okay? And it's very important to define what we're talking about. So when we look at the definition of Satan, what does it mean? It's an opponent, and it's an adversary. It's someone who withstands you, who's against you. And then they kind of insert, it's the arch enemy of good. And now we're coming to the Gnostic. You got the God of all good, the God of all evil, and here's this pesky Satan. What a bad guy. And then we're going to look at the Hebrew word angel, and you're going to see that it has multiple meanings. To dispatch as a deputy, it's a messenger. And then you have this specifically of God that is an angel. Now that's a Greek word. So it's a Greek word. Okay, the Hebrew word is malek, and this could also be king. This could be ambassador, messenger. It could even be a prophet or a priest or a teacher. So this gives the translators a lot of room to play with when they're translating these words. So now let's look at a Hebrew example. And this is the first time the word Satan is going to be used in the entire Bible. It's not in the books of Moses. Not in the sense of an enemy. So here we've got the book of Numbers. So this is kind of a book of Moses. Okay, so and God's anger was kindled because he went, and the angel or the messenger of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary, for a Satan against him. Now he was riding upon his ass, his donkey, and his two servants were with him. So what do we notice about the first time the word Satan appears in the scriptures? It says it's a messenger of God that stood in the way for a Satan, for an adversary against him. So the translators couldn't write the word Satan here, because if they wrote the word Satan here, you'd go, well, how could Satan be a messenger of God? How can he be an angel of the Lord doing what God wants? He's Satan. He's the enemy of God. He's the enemy of all, right? No. In this passage, Satan is the angel, a messenger of God. Now we're going to look at another chapter. We know this is an opposite. Okay, we're going to see that this is in the book of Psalms. We're going to see that it says, "Set thou a wicked man over him, and let Satan, okay, stand at his right hand." Now let's translate that word Satan, because they didn't translate it; they left it in Hebrew. So it says, "Set thou a wicked man." It doesn't say, "Set thou a wicked fallen angel over him." It's a man. "And let an adversary, an enemy, an opponent stand at his right hand." That makes sense, and that's what it's saying. So the translators, this is the same word in Hebrew. There's no difference. It's just when they're going to choose to translate it and when they're not, because they couldn't write the word Satan in Numbers 22 because it would stand out, and you'd go, well, that doesn't make sense. Okay, and now we're going to look at some examples of when are men Satans. Okay, so here we have the princes of the Philistines, and you're going to see in this chapter, here's the word Satan again, but they translated it. Why? Because would it make sense to you if the translators wrote down, well, the princes of the Philistines are Satan? Well, no, they're just an adversary. They're an enemy. Okay, and we're going to see it over and over again. We have it in 1 Kings here. "But now the Lord, my God, has given me rest on every side, so that there is neither Satan," okay, that's adversary, "neither adversary nor evil occurrent." So, okay, very interesting. Now we're going to have 1 Kings, okay? "And God stirred him up another Satan," right? Another adversary, Rezin, the son of Elidah, which fled from his lord Hadadezer, king of Zobah. Okay, so the point here, again, you have men, you have rivals that are being risen up, and they're becoming Satans to these people. And the Lord stirred up an adversary, Satan, unto Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the king's seed in Edom. Is this a fallen angel? Or is this just the king? See, now what some Christians are going to say is, well, no, you have to go into the spirit world and look behind the man, and Lucifer is puppeting him. Well, that's fine. You can believe that, but it's not what the Bible says. That's fine. So God creates evil. What? How can God create evil? I thought he can only do good. And you got to be careful. Whenever people tell you that God can only do good, God is only good. He's incapable of doing evil. All right. Gnostic warning. Okay, and you're going to get this a lot from Catholics, a lot from Orthodox, a lot from even Protestants. They're all kind of, they don't see the Gnostic influence in their religion. Okay, shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and the Lord has not done it? Of course God did it. What do we read here? So consider the works of God. Who can make straight which God has made crooked? Well, God didn't do anything evil. God didn't make anything crooked, right? That was Lucifer, the pesky Satan, pesky fallen angels. They're the ones who corrupted all of God's good creation because God can't do bad. Well, no, God made things crooked, and you're not going to make it straight. God purposely created the world imperfect, and without that imperfection, we could never know perfection. Thanks to being imperfect, we understand imperfection, and this is where Jesus comes into our life, and why God created Jesus, and why Jesus died for us, and why God planned this whole thing out. It was really to show us and teach us what love is. It teaches us what perfection is. It teaches us, it's through imperfection that we can understand perfection. And to rob God of this is, I think, this is a crime. Okay? So no one can make straight what God has made crooked. And you could look at anything in our universe, whether you're looking at chemical compounds, you can never create 100% purity. It's impossible for mankind. The highest you can get is 99.9. We can't create anything pure. Musical notes, if you want to study music, if you want to hit the octave, you can't tune the musical instruments perfect. You have to tune them imperfect. And only when you tune the notes imperfect can it land back on the octave and it sounds nice. If you tune a piano perfectly, it sounds terrible. You need that imperfection even in music, and you're going to see that all throughout creation. God says in Isaiah, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Shouldn't it say Lucifer does? Lucifer created the evil. Satan did it? No. God says, I did it. Okay? I create the light. I create the darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So that's monotheism, and we're going to keep going with this. This isn't done yet. So if you want to believe in, there's a lot to this, and it would probably take me 20 hours for me to go through the whole Bible with you guys, especially the New Testament. You're going to find the hardest book to read is the New Testament because it's full of devils, it's full of demons, it's full of polytheism. It's just this is a big reason why also devout, I would say, like, not all Jews, but some devout religious Jews that aren't so crazy, their struggle with Christianity is they can't break through the polytheistic barrier from the translation. That's really the vernacular. That's to do with, you have to understand that when you're going to the first century and you go back in time and try to talk like these people, how did they speak? No ancient Greek would have used the word angel to describe a supernatural being. To an ancient Greek, the word angel just meant a messenger. Someone who was sent to perform a duty, a task. It's a pastor, it's a leader. An angel is not a winged man with a sword falling from heaven. No ancient Greek would have ever thought of that. That's something that came through the church, through the Gnostics. So a big problem with the New Testament, when you get into the devils and the demons, you have to understand there's no other way for these writers to actually tell you. They can't use medical terminology to tell you, oh, well, Jesus cured this disease and this and that. They actually, there's no other way for them to actually tell you how, like, you would have to say, if you tried to explain medical terminology, this is a big This is who Hippocrates was, the father of modern day medicine, and his struggle. If you want to study medicine, look at Hippocrates. Hippocrates was a Greek fighting with the ancient world, trying to tell them, no, there's a natural explanation to these sicknesses, to these diseases. It's not just based by the devils and the demons. It's not. So Hippocrates, really, this was his struggle. This was his gospel. He was trying to show people there's a natural explanation for this stuff. And all doctors today are supposed to take the Hippocratic Oath based on Hippocrates. And when you mix Hippocrates with Jesus, with the New Testament, and you study the vernacular, you study the common speech used by these people, it all makes sense. It all makes perfect sense. And I don't look at the demons as I look at it as authentic history. That's how they spoke. This is real Greek history. And you're also taking the life and culture of Hebrews, and you're trying to read it through the language and culture of the ancient Greek. So you have two cultures clashing together, two worlds colliding, and you're trying to write about the Hebrew world using ancient Greek. And imagine how difficult that would be. If you speak more than one language, you know what I'm talking about. So again, Satan serves God. This is how monotheism works. So we're going to look at some examples. So this is the Greek word angel, angelos. And again, it means a messenger. Now, then they insert this, especially an angel. But by implications, it's a pastor. Okay, it's an envoy. It's someone who has a mission. Okay, it's someone who is sent to do something, who has a job to do. And now we're going to look at this very interesting. I'm just going to show you how fast the scriptures can transform when you study ancient Greek and study the common speech used by the people during this time. Okay, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Very interesting. This is what the Apostle Paul's warning us about. Now, is the Apostle Paul warning us about the Dark Lord Lucifer who can transform himself into an angel of light? Is that what Paul's saying? Let's take a closer look. Okay, so this is the question. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take that word Satan, and we are going to translate it. And we're also going to take the word angel, and we're going to translate it. We're going to see how scary this actually might be. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ, and no marvel, for the adversary himself is transformed into a pastor or messenger of light. Now I want you to really stop and think about this. What the Apostle Paul is actually telling us is he very well could be warning us about the men speaking from our pulpits. He's not warning us about Lucifer. He's not telling us that Satan and the angels can transform themselves into, I've never seen anything like that happen before. Paul is warning us that our enemies will stand in our churches and preach from the pulpits. Now, do you think the guys standing at the pulpits who translated our Bibles and are teaching us, do you think do you think they want to teach you that? Do you think they want to say, oh, by the way, the Apostle Paul says I might be your enemy. The Apostle Paul says you need to watch me because the adversary, your enemy, might appear to you as a pastor, a wolf in sheep's clothing. And that makes sense to me. Okay? Doesn't make sense. This whole Satan transforming, this is Gnosticism. And this, when you really start getting into this, you're going to start seeing their Gnostic fingerprints all throughout the scriptures. Now we're going to reverse this. We saw one example where the word was left in Greek, and now we're going to see they had to translate it. Now, why did they have to translate? So we're going to read this. Likewise also, not Rahab the harlot, justified by works, when she had received the messengers, the angels, the angelos, okay, and had sent them out another way. So this is going back to the Old Testament now, when Rahab took in Israelite spies who were spying on the city of Jericho. And Rahab is a very interesting woman. Some people consider her, say she was a prostitute. The word can be argued, but Rahab let two messengers, envoys, dispatch, people who were dispatched, sent to perform a mission, which is what the word means in Greek. They were sent into the city by Joshua to scout out Jericho, and Rahab saved them. And she was so scared of what happened in Egypt, she believed in God so much, in the God of the Israelites. So here's a Canaanite woman, a foreigner, who was rewarded to the point where if you study Jesus' genealogy, she's in there, just like Ruth. So you have foreign women who forsook their gods and left their culture and said, no, I want to be with you people. You people know what you're doing. I'm leaving my stuff behind. I want to be like you. And Rahab is that example. But look at that word messenger. Why didn't they translate it as angels? Why did they leave it as, why didn't they leave it in Greek like they did in the other places, right? Why didn't, just like here, right? Why didn't they do it? It's the same word. This is the same word in Greek. And the reason is, if the translators wrote the word angel in that spot and left it in Greek like they did in 2 Corinthians here, alarms would go off in your head, because you can go to the Old Testament and say, well, these weren't angels. These weren't supernatural creatures. These were just men that were sent to perform a mission, like the word angel means in Greek. So look at the opposite example here. Let me challenge you a little bit. Let me turn your view of Christianity upside down a bit. And that's I think is very fascinating. We have to look at the game these translators are playing. And I think it's just like the Wizard of Oz. When you really get to the skeleton of the Bible and Gnosticism and who our enemies are, and what the Jews in Egypt were doing during the first century, the time of Jesus, and who is Jesus' enemies? He's fighting Gnostics, he's fighting Pharisees. Orthodox, just really who we're fighting today. We're fighting Gnostics and we're fighting Orthodox Jews. We're fighting this religion. More communist Jews, okay, they're a very special sect of Jews. But they control the Orthodox movement because that's what Gnostics do. And when you get behind the curtain, you realize there's no Lucifer, there's no Wizard of Oz. It's a bunch of corrupt men pulling levers, and they have us all chasing something that isn't real, when we should be looking at the people behind the pulpit. We should be looking at our priests. We should be looking at our pastors. We should be looking, why do you think the church has failed? So the following words do not exist in the books of Moses. And stop and think about this. Jesus said, had you believed in Moses, you would have believed in me. And Satan, Lucifer, fallen angels, devil, and demon are not in the books of Moses. In fact, let's take it a step further. Why didn't Moses write a single chapter on Lucifer? Guys, there are 2 entire books of the law. When you go and study how detailed Moses was with writing the law, ask yourselves, why didn't he write one detailed chapter where he said, come, children of Israel, sit at my feet. Let me tell you that God has sent you into a world against supernatural beings that could kill you by blinking. He didn't. It's the enemy of Moses was a man. It was Pharaoh. Pharaoh was the Satan. Okay? And this is a very deep subject, and I don't expect you guys to believe me right away. And this is going to come down to who are the sons of God, and this is what everyone will point to in Genesis, that the sons of God are angels. And my challenge to you is, go through the canon, go through the Bible, go through the Old Testament, find me one chapter where it says specifically that the sons of God are the fallen angels. I want you to find that chapter and send it to me. Don't use the book of Enoch, the book of Jasher, the book of Jubilees. I don't have time to debunk those in this video, but those books are very easy to debunk, and they're just really Jewish folklore. And the Jews actually had to corrupt the Masoretic text. If you look at the Masoretic Bible and compare it to the Septuagint and the Samaritan Pentateuch, you're going to notice that the genealogies are different, that the Jews removed a lot of years off the people. The reason they had to change all the ages of the people was because their folklore depends on certain people living at the same time as other people. And the Jewish Masoretic Bible is really the most corrupt Bible I think we have in the world, and all the Western Bibles of today are based off of it. And you're going to see, I could very easily, this is a whole other subject, but we're going to look at this, the sons of God. So Genesis 6, this is what everyone's going to point to that believe in fallen angels, and we're going to ask, who are the sons of God? And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. So what they're saying here is that this is where the fallen angels, the sons of God, grabbed earthly women and started producing giants. And I used to believe this. So if you believe in this, I stopped believing in it. I was a hardcore believer in this. I was crazy about this subject, and so it took me a long time to break out of it. It wasn't easy, and if it actually wasn't for my younger brother, I don't think anyone else could have convinced me otherwise. So, fallen angels. So, who are the sons of God? The first view is, sons of God are the fallen angels. The next is the sons of Seth. Seth is Adam's third son, and these are the two dominant views in the church. They're either sons of Seth or they're fallen angels. I don't believe in either one. I think they are the sons of Adam. They are the children of the Adamic race. And that is my view, and we're going to kind of go through it. And now we're going to see giants and what they call Nephilim. Okay, and the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for that he is also flesh, and yet his days shall be 120 years. And this is fascinating because this is roughly how long the oldest people live. They don't really go that far past 120. And I think that's very fascinating because this is very accurate. You can see people living to 120, 122, things like this today. And the book of Genesis does say people lived a really long time. And I would call this like the mythological age. And I actually do believe that initially the Caucasian, the children of Adam were gifted this long period of life. And you can see it in the religions, in the mythologies. And this is a whole other subject. But we're going to go further. And it says, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And I do believe that. I do believe that a lot of our myths and all the stuff that was taught in Mesopotamia and Egypt came from these legends from before the flood, from ancient Sumeria. And when you read the names of Cain's children, they all correspond to gods. They are the one is the god of metal crafting. One is the god of music. His daughter is the goddess of beauty, and you can see how the children of Cain, I believe, convinced the other races that they were gods. Now, this word Nephilim really just means bully and tyrant. So when it says that giants were in the earth in those days, in Hebrew, that's just telling you that this mixture from this produced tyrants, bullies, people who just enslaved the other people. That's what the word Nephilim means. It doesn't mean giants. I don't know why they put that there. It doesn't really make any sense. It's just to turn the Bible into a fairy tale. So to understand this is a huge topic, and I can't really do it in the amount of time that I have. Hunter-gatherers. So what you're going to notice right away in Genesis, we have two creation stories. We have Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. And in Genesis 1, you have a whole different story going on from Genesis 2. And in Genesis 1, God is really creating hunter-gatherers. Okay? And in Genesis 2, Adam, for instance, Adam and Eve are taught how to build empires. Okay, the people in Genesis 1 are taught to live off animals and to eat berries and nuts. Adam is taught how to farm, how to garden, how to tend to animals. You see at the end of the story, there's some fire and there's clothing being made. Adam is taught law. He's taught how to name things. Adam is being prepared to build empires. Adam is being taught to use the land to serve him, to feed him, which is what the Caucasian races are going to be famous for, farming and agriculture, and what's going to come out of the Middle East. The hunter-gatherers, so there's two races being created here. There's multiple races, and we're going to see this. You're going to notice that the order is completely different. They have different orders of creation from both these stories. Different diets. They're given two completely different diets. different animals. This goes over the head of a lot of people, but if you notice this, the people in Genesis 1 are told that every beast of the earth, right, is theirs. But Adam is told the beast of the field. Now, this flies over people, and most people don't catch this, but what is this saying? Well, these people are taught to have dominion over the wild creatures. Adam is taught, he's taught how to to tend animals, and he's given it's domesticated animals. So this is a big difference between these two people from Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. And that goes over the heads of a lot of people. The other thing is the different commandments. They were not given the same commandments. Everything's different in these stories. The order of creation, for instance, Adam came before the animals, and Eve came after the animals. Meanwhile, in Genesis 1, the men and women are created at the exact same time. They're created after the animals. They're given a whole different diet and different commandments. And God blessed them. So this is the hunter-gatherers in chapter 1. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply. Stop and think about that. The first commandment in the entire Bible, the first commandment ever given by God, is literally go make babies. Okay? And what do we know about our world? And I'm going to be blunt and just say everything revolves around sex. Absolutely everything. When you really break down, why do women want to dress beautiful and be in shape and wear makeup? Because they're trying to attract a mate. Okay, why do men want to make a lot of money, have a lot of stuff? It's because they want a pretty girl. They want a woman, right? Because at the end of the day, in this material world, in our fleshly world, everything revolves around sex. Absolutely everything. And I think it's really interesting. The first time a commandment is given, it's literally a commandment that our whole world revolves around. Okay, so be fruitful and multiply. And that's what these people in Genesis 1 are commanded to do, be fruitful and multiply. And that's what they did. So these hunter-gatherer races went out, they multiplied. And the reason why the story doesn't sound right in English is because you have to read it in Hebrew. And in Hebrew, it becomes a lot more clear. And there's just things that the English translators miss. And I think it's absolutely crystal clear that there are two. God created multiple races in Genesis 1. And you're going to notice that they're in different locations. Adam is given a specific location. These people are scattered around the world, and different ages. There's a whole age separating the men from Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, and Adam and Eve in Genesis 2. There's a giant time gap. And what you're going to notice is the Bible doesn't say the earth is 6,000 years old. It says Adam was created about 6,000 years ago. And it's exactly 6,000 years ago that we have civilization showing up. You have agriculture, you have the plow, you have civilization forming in exactly where the Bible places Adam, the Garden of Eden, Mesopotamia, and exactly at the same time. And so this is a deep subject, and that's a video in itself. So who are the sons of God? Are they fallen angels? Are they the sons of Seth? Or are they exactly who the Bible says? The sons of Adam, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. Okay? If Adam was the son of God, his children are the sons of God. It's not fallen angels. This is about the Adamic race mixing with the hunter-gatherer tribes. Okay, so again, it all comes back to Mesopotamia. It all comes back to the Caucasian races and their movement across the world. And these are, again, the Indo-Europeans, the Aryans, the Camites, you could say, the Egyptians, and the Semites. And even to this day, you have this Semitic Aryan clash, and the Egyptians have kind of gone into the background. All right. Oh, man. I haven't checked the chat at all, and I don't agree with you on that. There's a lot. Oh yeah, no, I can't imagine a lot of people are going to agree with me. I'm going to piss a lot of people off. So I'm just kind of looking at the chats, and let's see if there's anything in the entropy shekel chat. Let's see here. I do have one from Lord Farquaad, and he's got against interracial children or interracial couples. For that matter, also, does anybody know any good ways to make good money in high school with no job experience asking for a friend? That's okay. Well, it's got against interracial marriage, interracial children. Look, as a mixed race guy, I can sympathize with the mixed race children. Okay, so I'm gonna always judge a man by his merit. In fact, back in my crazy days, I had a black guy save my life, and he didn't have to, and he risked a lot. And let me tell you something. For me to hate black people, it's not gonna happen. I'm not. Do I hate the societies they build? Yep, absolutely. In Haiti, they killed all the white people, and look at Haiti now. Haiti's destroyed. And now we're letting in all these Haitians into Canada, into Quebec. I'm against that. I don't believe you should be filling up your country with Haitians, especially after they massacred all the white people, raped all the women, and they wanted their own country, and they got it. And Google what Haiti looks like. So I'm not for bringing in these people into our countries at all, but I will always judge a man by his merit, what he's done. So I think you should do the same when it comes to interracial, children that are born. They didn't ask for this. They're divided too, and I'm not for race mixing. Like I said, as a race mix guy, I think it's actually pretty terrible not to belong anywhere, not to. Doesn't mean to mistreat other races. Look, when you wake up in the morning and you go out the front door, the first thing you do is, whether you like it or not, you're representing your race. That's the first thing people are going to see. Okay? So you're representing your race, your ethnicity, the moment you walk out the door and other people see you and how you behave. And I do think we should be kind to other races, but not be submissive. And we shouldn't bow down to them at all, especially in our own countries. Absolutely not. So I don't know how you can make money in high school. For a high school kid, I don't know what it's like in high school right now. I'm sure there's got to be jobs like, as far as I saw, like McDonald's and Tim Hortons and all these places. There was a coffee shop that was shut down because they didn't have workers. And there's no shame in that kind of work. There's no shame in being a teenager. I think those jobs are designed for teenagers to give you some experience and to make some pocket money, and then you can move on to do better things. There's no shame in that kind of work. I have more respect for the guys who flip burgers and prepare coffee than I do for the idiots in Washington and the idiots in Ottawa. I have far more respect for a burger flipper than I do for a politician. So don't look at it as bad work. Yeah, I'm not going to read all of this. Anyways, I've got a message from Andrew. It says, a fellow Montrealer here of Coptic origin. Thoughts on Dr. E. Michael Jones. Love your work. I'm in big time opposition in a lot of ways to Dr. E. Michael Jones. I think he's done a great job in exposing the Jews. But I consider him very Gnostic in his teachings, and he's not so vocal on Hitler and National Socialist Germany. That's kind of my staple. Everyone yells at me because man, you want to piss me off? Start trashing Hitler in front of me, and that will piss me right off. I go into like pit bull mode because, man, yeah. Look, I mean, when I really started studying Adolf Hitler, I actually cried after one of his speeches. That man, when I read Mein Kampf, it's like the guy is reaching into my soul, from the dead and just bringing life into me. So you want to piss me off, attack Hitler. And I think Dr. E. Michael Jones doesn't touch on the National Socialist part, the Hitler part. At least not that I saw. I mean, he's got some excellent points on, like, his book on pornography, on the libido there. I forgot the name of the book. he's got excellent points, but when it comes down to actually scripture, he's very Gnostic in his teachings. He believes God is all good, can only do all good. The God of the Bible clearly says, no, I created evil, I do all these things, I made everything crooked, and so he's got a very Catholic approach to it. And if you're Catholic, look, some of the best Christians I know are Catholic. I'm not going to tell you not to go to church. Absolutely not. If anything, I can tell you to go to church. Okay? I had a Catholic friend, great guy, unbelievable guy. And while I knew everything about the Bible, and I was, this guy lived it. This guy made me look like a piece of garbage. It didn't matter how much I knew. And this is going to come back to the comment that I think her name's Nike kind of came after me for. But it's works. There's a lot to be said about your works, your actions. Actions always speak louder than words, and you can mess with people. I had a neighbor who used to drown animals. He used to capture skunks and squirrels and all this stuff and just drown them in a barrel, set traps for them and stuff. And he was just kind of an evil dude. And I didn't like him at all. And we fought. We didn't get along. And he was old. And one summer, I realized, I'm cutting my lawn, and for me to cut his will just take 5 minutes, and it takes him like 3 hours. So I just would start cutting his lawn whenever I cut mine. And in the winter, I just start shoveling his driveway, right? Because it took him forever. And I didn't like the guy. He was a total piece of garbage. And I did this for a year, right? Right. This is the year I became a Christian. I just started doing this. And at the end of, after a year of doing it, I came home one day, and the guy had a basket on my porch full of wine, olive oil, all these like treasures, and an envelope full of cash. Right? I was just doing it to be nice, because I'm like, well, it takes this old guy forever. I'm just going to do it for him. And then I was just absolutely shocked. So here's an example of, I killed the guy with kindness, and then he repaid it back. And even though we hated each other, we were enemies, I thought it was an amazing thing. So absolutely works. And best Christians I know, Catholics, I know some amazing Orthodox. Hell, I know some good Mormons. I love Mormons. Absolutely love them. Do I agree with your doctrines? Absolutely not. Do you agree with mine? No. But you know what? This is where Hitler says, and the Apostle Paul, the apostles too, will agree that we have to put little differences aside and come to an agreement. Do we agree on the 10 Commandments? Do we agree on we have to come to an agreement. If we can come to an agreement on this basic Christian stuff, we can argue about the other stuff, but don't go to war. No more infighting. We have to be exactly as Hitler said, and we have to discover one another in our own faiths and be united in Christ. And that's what I think is key here. So do I like E. Michael Jones? Yeah, I think he does some great work, but I don't agree with his doctrine. Oh, you're a fellow Montrealer and a Coptic origin. I had a couple Coptic Uber drivers, and I remember just talking to them about Egyptian history, and they were just floored that I knew so much about Coptic history. So we're gonna continue now with Nike again. And what do you mean the second coming is a historical event? Do you mean it happened already? And this is gonna piss people off. So yeah, we're gonna look at the second coming of Christ and the end of the world, and we're gonna break this down. And secular sources for this event. So think about this. We actually have the Romans writing about a supernatural event that took place as the temple was destroying, where they claim to have seen an apparition. They saw some kind of projection in the sky of an army surrounding Jerusalem. They saw bright lights. There was a comet. The temple was destroyed. Mosaic law was destroyed. All the people who killed Christ had been either killed or sold into slavery. Jesus had his revenge. And when you read the book of Revelation in Greek, you can really start to see it. When you immerse yourself in first century culture and study the book of Josephus, study Tacitus, it becomes very clear that the second coming of Christ is a documented historical event. It already happened. Jesus never spoke about the end of the world. He's clearly speaking about the end of the age, and we're going to show you that in a moment. So here's a question for all of you watching. What do you notice about the words that are highlighted? What do you notice? Right? Do you notice anything? You don't, right? The world, okay, so let's read the first one. And as he said, this is all from Matthew 24. So this is the end. This is the book of Revelation verse of Jesus. He's describing the events of the book of Revelation, the end of the world. And so the first, Matthew 24:3, as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? All right, next verse. Matthew 24:14, further down. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, okay, all races, and then shall the end come. Oh, so the end will come when? When the gospel, see, this is, and Christians will say, oh, once the gospel of Jesus reaches every part of the world, that's when the second coming will happen. And you're right, but no, you're also wrong. So now we're going to continue later on, and it's going to say, For then shall be great tribulation, such as not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. So what did you notice? Did you catch anything? No, because this is the English translation. Let's see how the ancient Greeks viewed this. How about now? I'm going to just let you guys look at this for a moment. What do you notice? Did you catch it? These are three completely different Greek words. Completely different. They all mean completely different things. Yet they were all translated to the same word in English. You can say that the Greek language is more rich. The English language, at least modern English, Old English is probably, like Shakespearean English is probably richer than modern English. We've lost a lot in modern English. But the ancient Greek world, the Greek language, is very precise. For instance, they have 4 different ways to say the word love, right? The love I would have for my best friend wouldn't be the same love that I have for a woman. The love that I have for God, which would be like the Greek word agape, which this is a different love than the Greek word eros, which is the love I would have for a woman, right? This is eros, is where you get erotic from, right? So the Greeks had all these different words to specify a form of love, and we're going to see the exact same thing right now. So these are the 3 words we're going to look at: the word aeon, oikumene, and cosmos. And the word aeon is described properly as an age. It's a course. It's a period of time, and that period of time is going to come to an end. Oikumene, this could be land, but this really means the inhabited world or the known world. And in this case, it specifically means the Roman Empire. And then we're going to come to the third word, which is cosmos. And this is the world. And it's like the cosmos, the order, the universe, the world. Okay, so now we're going to read the same passage. Okay, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and when shall be the sign of thy coming, and the end of the age, the aeon? And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the Roman Empire, in the oikumene, for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So when will the end come? When the gospel reaches the Roman Empire, the oikumene, not the world. It would be cosmos otherwise. And again, in the last verse, we actually have it correct. This is the word cosmos. For then shall be great tribulation, such as what not since the beginning of the cosmos, the world, the universe, to this time, no, nor ever shall be. 3 different words, completely different in Greek. The translators knew it. They loved this end of the world. You'll notice that even without Christianity, the secular world, it's right, Y2K, 2012, climate change, all this crap. They love the end of the world. They rule the world through fear. And even when they remove the end, now that we're not Christians anymore, the West has fallen away from Christianity, they still go on with the end of the world because they know how effective this is. So in Matthew 24, pay attention to those Greek words. They all come across as world in the English translation, but the ancient Greeks never would have read it that way. It would have been very clear, when's the end of the age? Well, when the gospel reaches the Roman Empire, and then there'll be tribulation that the world has never seen before. And there was. When you saw what happened to the Jews in Jerusalem, if we get to that study and we actually break down what the Bible and Josephus and Tacitus say happened in Jerusalem, it's horrific. It's absolute. These Jews got what they deserved. And now we're going to look at this verse. Heaven and earth. What is heaven and earth, right? Because Jesus says, for verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, not one jot nor one tittle, and no wise shall pass from the law. This is very interesting, because what in Matthew 24, we have this. Jesus says to the generation, okay, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. That means the second coming, the end of the age. So Jesus is telling the people in front of him that all these things, my return, the destruction of the temple, all these things have to happen, and this generation will live to see it happen. So he's not talking about us 2,000 years in the future. That's what the people want us, the churches want us to believe in today. Jesus is specifically talking to the people in Jerusalem, in Judea, at his time, and the people who lived during this time will see all these things come to pass. Well, how about the next verse? Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. Okay, what is heaven and earth? And this is, we're not going to get too into this, but it's Josephus, it's all in Josephus, and this is going to be a great study to do. Heaven and earth is a reference to the temple. How does this chapter begin? It's about the destruction of the temple. What is heaven and earth? It's the temple. This is where heaven and earth came together. If you were talking to a Jew in the 1st century, and you were to say heaven and earth to him, this is like a slang for the temple, because this is where God's throne on earth was. And if you study Josephus, he will tell you very precisely that the way that the temple was built was to mimic the universe, the cosmos, the water, the earth, the heaven, and God. There's the Holy of Holies, the one part of the temple, is designated as heaven on earth. So when Jesus is saying heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away, well, let's read what he says in Matthew 5, because it's very clear here. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass. So until, so till, one jot or one tittle shall no wise pass from the law, the Torah. Now let me ask you something. Have jots and tittles been removed from the law? Oh yeah. 2 entire books of Moses have been removed. All the ordinances, all the temple sacrifices, the Torah is the law. That whole law system was destroyed. No temple. I'm telling you, you can't follow the Torah. You can't follow the priestly sacrifice, all the rituals on 2 of these books, pretty much all of Deuteronomy and all of Leviticus, pretty much is the law, and we don't follow that anymore. Without the temple, you can't follow it. So what is Jesus saying here? Till heaven and earth pass, when the temple is destroyed, okay, until that happens, not one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the Torah, from the law, till all be fulfilled. Let me tell you, when that temple was destroyed, you can remove pretty much 2 of those books, because we can't do them anymore. So more than jots and tittles were removed from the Torah. No temple, you can't do any of that. So heaven and earth, especially when we go through Josephus, you will see that heaven and earth is exactly, it's perfect 1st century vernacular. This is how they spoke back then. This is how the Jews would have identified the temple as heaven and earth. Okay, so that's what this means.